I've always been afraid of spiders. One of the ways that I rationalize it is that I always looked up to my older sister. I played with her Barbies, I grew my hair long, and she was afraid of spiders, so I was afraid of spiders too. But of course, a lot of people are afraid of spiders, and I read one study that found that even newborn infants have a stress response when they just see a picture of a spider. Now, of course, most spiders don't pose any real threat to humans, but we aren't always rational when we're evaluating risk. When our bodies are worried, our stress response turns on, and the only thing we can think about is fight or flight. Which is great when you actually need to run away from a poisonous spider, because then once you've gotten away from it, you can relax. But if the thing that your brain flags as risky is not being good enough at your job, and if that's causing a physical stress response with adrenaline and defensiveness, and that keeps going on day after day after day because you can't just run away from it or squish it like a spider, then that's going to make you sick. If the thing that your brain flags as risky is the mere thought of stepping outside or seeing other people, and that's been on your mind every day for the past 2 months with no clear end in sight, you can't run away from that. You can't just squish it like a spider. Our brains don't know what to do with it, and it's making us sick. We don't want to treat every single threat like it's a spider. The framework that I learned in the high school debate club for trying to rationally categorize risk has 3 parts. First, time frame. When wildfires are spreading now, it's better to prioritize responding to those rather than retrofitting your house for the next big earthquake that might come sometimes in the next 20 years. The second, probability. It's better to prioritize responding to the thing that has a 50% chance of happening rather than the one that has a 5% chance. And third, magnitude. All else equal, we'd rather prioritize fixing a big problem rather than a small one. But even when we have a framework, that doesn't mean that we're always going to be rational. Remember, our brains think everything's a spider that's out to get us, so even when we're trying to be rational, we often go with what makes the most visceral sense. And it's really hard for any of us to think about the abstract stuff. I understand what right now means. If there's a spider in front of me, then I need to get away. I understand what today means. I'll probably want lunch in a couple hours. I kind of understand next week, like I'll need to get some groceries. But if we're talking about next month, and even if we weren't in such a time of rapid change, what does next year mean on a visceral level? So when somebody says that if we don't cut our carbon emissions, we'll have a 1 degree temperature rise 30 years from now, what does that even mean? And if we can't grasp that on an intuitive level, is it any surprise that we're not worrying about those kinds of risks over a long time frame? And the problem with probability is that high probability means risky, but high probability also means normal. Cars kill over 30,000 people in the US every year, but it's normal. And we tend to start to forget about normal risks, no matter how serious the consequences. So what we're left with after all of these attempts at rational risk analysis is being afraid of the things that are right in front of us and big and unknown. Still just jumping at spiders, but missing the risks that really matter because they're hiding in plain sight. As the Lorax might say, jumping at spiders forever will be, ignoring the later and normalcy. Unless our community can bring us back in, remind us to breathe and see our strength that's within. Focus on issues where we have lots of traction, then watch out, world, because we're taking action.